This is the first pass on the router table with a 1/4-inch bit to route the trough for the tension rod. I'll need to do more than one pass because to do it cleanly you only take out a small amount at a time. I'm about to cut the neck out, on the profile of the neck out. The width up near the nut is usually about 2 1/8. That's pretty standard. I'm going 1/8 larger because I have large fingers, and I'm sure other people do too, whoever might be playing this. And it doesn't make it any harder to play, but it can make it easier if your fingers are wide. So I'm going to take this over onto the saw and cut it out. I know how incredibly awkward that looked, but I have a good rough cut, and beats the heck out of trying to do it on the table saw with this curved surface, or this bent surface, or trying to put it in a vise and do it by hand, which does work, but it takes a while. This is a rough cut, and sanding and planing and scraping will help finish it. Well, I didn't show all the cutting and carving out and everything, but here is the head design that I've come up with. The neck is cut down to shape. I've yet to do the tail block, but the head design is not plain, but not too elaborate either. And of course, there's a faceplate that goes on here. Well, I've worked a bit to take down the bracing quite a bit more, and starting to see some overtones. You don't usually get it much out of the edges here. But up here you do. In the center, for comparison, harder tone. Over here is really pronounced. Somewhat there. So it's tells me what I have to work on. I need to take this down a little bit more. This little draw knife was made by my brother. He was a nuclear pipe welder in the shipyard, Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. And he welded this up once. It's got little brass handles on it. And don't know what the metal is, but in 40 years, I've never sharpened it, and it doesn't seem like it's ever dull. I think it's made with submarine hull steel because he used a nuclear pipe welder on submarines. But I think I remember him telling me that. And the Navy uses some exotic metal, sometimes 3, 4, 5 alloys, nickel, copper, cadmium, whatever. I used to hear names of all kinds of metals like that. This one is particularly hard. I've tried honing stones on it and stuff, but it doesn't seem to touch it. But it doesn't matter. It's pretty sharp. It's pretty razor sharp, and it's got a nice bevel on it, so that when I use it, it's very controllable. You tip it up a little bit, it takes less. You tip it down, it takes more of a bite, and it does a really nice job. A little thick right here. Goes a little thinner, but that's good. Little bump right in there. About here to here. That's better. Okay, let's take a look at it. Feels good. A little fine tuning left to do, but feels pretty good. Okay, I think we'll leave that for now. Okay, here's my fret rule, and this is a great little thing. It gives you where all of the frets should be, depending on. There's 2 different classical size necks here and 2 different steel string size, and I'm going with the longer of the steel string size. And here's a note right here. You probably can't see it on camera. It has to do with the nut. And I'm going to bring this down here so that the guitar hits the 14th fret right about there, which is where the neck has to be. And it looks like the nut will go right here. which leaves me just a little space for it right here, which is great. After I get the headpiece on here, there'll be a little ledge right here for the nut to go. So that's looking pretty good. Pretty darn good so far. And of course, the bridge is way down here. The distance between the nut and the 12th fret is the same distance between 12th fret and where the bridge goes. So if you play guitar, you know, you can hit a note right here by touching the string, it'll make a ringing sound. That's the halfway point where the string is making a sine wave. Get it down in the camera. A sine wave like this. And the middle of that note, that sine wave, is at the 12th fret. So halfway between the nut and the 12th fret, and the bridge and the 12th fret. And I don't know if you remember, but this was a straight piece of mahogany, and we cut it at an angle, a scarf joint, and we flipped it around and glued this on here, so we now have an angled head. And you can see the joint right there, and it doesn't show much on this side, but the joint is actually right here. It makes an oval now because the neck's been carved. It's right here, and it goes this way through the neck. Now the reason for doing that is strength. You can buy a block of mahogany this size, and you can carve the whole thing out of it. But if you do, the grain goes straight across like this and through the head. So if you were to draw lines through the grain, follow the grain, it would go from here right straight through, and it makes a weak spot right here. This way, the grain goes straight across, and then this is glued in this direction. So the grain now goes this way. So this becomes a weak spot if you carve it out of one piece. Of course, you're stuck with having to put the heel block on the back, but much stronger this way for the string tension.